Upgrades. Welcome everybody to a brand new, well, this is the first episode that we've done for the Wheel of Time I'm guessing I'm going to be the host, Terrell from Big Gold Belt BGB, and we have Nat here from Team JVS. Hey Nat, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good. We've met each other in passing a thousand times, but we've never actually had a project that we worked on together. So I'm very happy and excited to be able to talk with her and be able to learn more things about this show that I can't seem to get in the 70 minutes each episode. So it's been tough. Like I said, I've never read the books before. If you guys know, I don't have any knowledge of like what's going to happen, what should happen. This chair should be in this corner of the room or anything like that from the books. Because people are like that when it comes to the books. But no, so going into the show, I'm completely blind. I believe, I know that Nat has a lot more comprehensive knowledge of the Wheel of Time and how the wheel should be turning. Nat, what brought you to these books? What made you pick this up? Was it the show, or you were reading this way before this became anywhere near popular on Prime?
I feel like I'm an OG at this point because I read this in high school. So I'm showing my age.
Yeah, I wasn't getting none of the cool books in high school.
It's funny because I was at the library and I kept on seeing this series being checked out, especially the audiobooks. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to finally check it out. And it was already 7 books in at that point. And so I read or listened to it, Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, OG audiobook narrators. And here I am. I'm finally happy to see this show on air. I did have my gripes about season 1, and I do have some concerns about season 2, but for the most part, I am enjoying what I'm seeing. But we're going to get into this episode because I got some thoughts.
Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't, when I first watched it, I didn't know what to expect from season 1. So everything just felt okay to me. I didn't have any issues besides, the same thing they're doing in season 2, where like, man, like every scene is at night. Like every time they have like a major battle, whatever, you can't see nothing. You know what I mean? Like, except the fire and the torches and stuff like that.
That's been a little frustrating for sure. It's not like some of the scenes are bad. It's just that we are consecutively getting night scenes and there's no variance with daytime fight scenes. So if there was a variety, then maybe we wouldn't be complaining as much, or we wouldn't. That critique is valid. But I'm thinking the latter half of this season, just based on the previews and some of the trailers that have dropped, we will be getting day fight scenes.
Okay. So, like I said, before we get into episode 4, just want to do a quick little recap of 1 through 3 real quick. Not too long on it, but so as we know, we're coming back from all the events of season 1, 9 months after that whole situation. Everybody's kind of on their separate paths. We got Egwene. I'm saying that again. Naive. who are in the tower training to be Aes Sedai. We have Matt, I want to think his name, who is still locked up in the same tower, and nobody just happens to know he's there. We've got Perrin, who I honestly think is the weakest character out of all of them. But maybe something obviously that I don't know, but he just has not played any role in the episode so far. That was just like, his story so far has been the most, him and Matt, his story has been the most boring because they haven't had the opportunity to do anything. Rand, I want to say his name is, who is the Dragon Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
Wish it wasn't him, but unfortunately it is.
Wow. Okay.
When it first came on, I didn't think it was gonna be him. I feel like it was too obvious, because he was like kind of the one that was reluctant to really hop on board with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just like, I don't know. The guy's just kind of, his character is just kind of boring. I think I'm just kind of over the man, I got this power, but I don't want it. Like that story. I feel like we've done it like 1,000 times, and I'm so hurt. And I gotta, I somehow whatever the way they frame it in the show, every time he has a bad night, he comes back to the woman that he's with. I'm trying to remember her name.
Selene. She goes by Selene in the first 3 episodes.
Selene, yeah. Which I'm not. I'm like, is she royalty or is she like a night walker here? I can't really tell from the story, from how they have it framed. But his story so far within those first 3 episodes of the season, not really too much going on. He's able to talk to the previous dragon, or who after he got stripped his powers away from, trying to learn a little bit more of how he can control it. But it's about as far as that goes so far. Trying to think which character that's on this journey so far that I might have left out. Moraine and Lan, who I'm thinking like so far in the story, she's lost her power to channel. She's not really feeling herself. Treat my man Lan like dirt, which I'm not feeling.
I'm not feeling either. I have my frustrations, but at the same time, she's grieving in her own way, and but the treatment of Lan was unnecessary. But again, when we get into episode 4, you kind of understand the urgency of her trying to get to Rand. But I don't quite forgive her treatment yet.
Yeah, so I mean, it's as the show kind of explains how the bond between an Aes Sedai and water works, like it's almost kind of like a symbiotic relationship, or kind of one-on-one. They almost to the point where they can kind of read each other's thoughts sometimes, or they can feel what each other feel.
Yeah, that's pretty much. They can hear each other's thoughts and feel what the other feels. There is a distance thing with the bond. The farther they're away from each other, the more distance they can hear the thoughts and feelings or whatever. But the bond is there. But now that Moraine has supposedly lost her powers, we don't know for sure yet. That's what happened. There's speculation, but we don't know for sure. With the bond, because she masked it before going to the Eye of the World, it's kind of hard to tell what's happening. I feel like if she was stilled, I think the effect that we saw last season with Steppen, it still would have affected Lan in a similar fashion. So the fact that that hasn't quite happened, it seems to, at least to me, lead to maybe she hasn't quite lost her powers, but they're shielded. Because they've shielded Logain from the power before he lost it. And then we saw Leandrin shield Nynaeve in episode 1 this season. Right. So that seems to be where they're going. But again, we're not 100% sure.
Yeah, I mean, the way the powers kind of work, I mean, I feel like they've explained it a few times, like, the different people able to control different elements, some multiple. Everybody has a unique version of the one power.
It's more like men and women have their different strengths within the one power, but it's just men and women and the 5 elements that they can control.
Oh, yeah. In this very particular special case, we have women gatekeeping the power from men because they're scared of what could possibly happen from the last time a man was wielding this power. They feel as if we touch it, it's tainted. Only women should be able to wield the power. Yada yada. Men somehow come into like a madness as you guys have been paying attention. Like if they control it, which we're dealing with now, as he is trying to kind of figure out if he can get some type of grip on it, some control. And then so jumping into before we get into season 4, we just had Egwene.
Nynaeve, are you talking about the accepted test?
Going through the arches,
yes,
and somehow living this whole fairy tale life, which I'm like, okay, she's done. She's done. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was the end of it. They resolved that quite quickly. I thought there was going to be at least 2 episodes, 3 before they wrap back to this. Now, in the books, how long is this? Is it like a couple of books in between? Is it like same book they resolve it? How long before you actually get an answer to that? Because I feel like she got out pretty quickly.
No, it was definitely in the second book. Like that whole trial happened like within one chapter,
Right.
Or maybe within 2 chapters. So it wasn't a long test. It just felt long because of where she was. See, the arches is kind of, it's like we know how they work, but we don't know how they work. So the length of time versus what it's in the present is very different. So that's why I think when they say the way back comes but once, yeah, if you don't come back, I mean, you're just stuck either living your life or you're dead. It's kind of hard to tell because they can't see what's happening.
Right.
So they have to, say, okay, well, we don't know for sure, but we're just gonna leave it alone. However, in the last episode, or with the arches and her accepted test, it just happened differently as far as when she left. The Aes Sedai were there. And that's a little bit of a gripe that I had beginning of this episode because it wasn't really discussed. In fact, the people that were there when she got through the third arch aren't in this episode or weren't there in the last episode. Right. So I'm just a little bit, y'all should have at least discussed it as a group because that's never happened before where someone channeled in the arches and survived. That should have been a discussion right there.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of weird too. Like this is a once in a lifetime occurrence that this had no history of happening. And like you said, it was just like, oh, okay, she did it. She's super powerful. Let's keep it moving on. It was kind of weird. I was like, all right. Kind of heartbreaking too, like that whole thing where, she had her whole family. She thought she was coming back with her daughter. That we don't, from our perception, it looks like obviously minutes, a day, but you don't know how long she was in that. Clearly the kid was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So maybe she was in there for years from her point of view. Thinking she's coming back with this child, which I thought was very, very, very heartbreaking. And I was also pretty confused because maybe I wasn't paying attention. When did I miss a complete romance between her and Lan that popped off that I didn't see, or I just blind? Like I feel like they never had time to really spark anything off.
Did you see episode 7? I mean, that was kind of like a culmination of
where they were at
feeling each other. I mean,
episode 7 where they were at his house, like where he was like. Okay, I was like, okay, maybe that was just not because like right after that it was like, all right, Moraine's back.
Well, I mean, they've been kind of flirting with each other, so to speak. I mean, he almost kissed her in episode 4 last season before they got attacked and she showed her power. I mean, she saved him, so feelings were there.
Okay. I was like, huh? Like, but I don't know because like when they jump back to kind of him and Moraine. I know it's not a romantic relationship. It's more like family or I don't want to say brother sister bond. It's kind of weird, but
but say like cousins or
something to that intimate level where they're very connected but not romantically. Because clearly we know she's not into him at all. If it wasn't clear, yeah. But I just was like, oh, okay. But I would hope that in the series that Nynaeve and Lan that happens in the future. But the way that this show goes, seems like nobody can be happy. There's not a second where anybody can have a moment to themselves, or it seems like everything's got to be struggle. There's never like a moment of happiness here. I know you.
I can't say.
I know.
I can't say, but there's just a lot of stuff happens before the last battle.
All right, so like I said, so at the end of episode 3, she comes back through the arches. Everybody just happens to be there. It's a welcoming party because they felt like they needed to sit there and grieve. The question that was going through my head was, what happened to all the stuff they just snatched out her room? She gonna get that back, or they just kind of cleared her room and was like, yeah, she's gone, she's dead. All right, let's move on.
Well, they probably stored it somewhere or either gave it to Egwene, and she probably didn't have a lot of stuff with her in the first place. So
so just keep in mind, guys. So like we both got the screener for episode 4. With all the episodes all together. I'm not sure if your screener had all the SFX done, all the special effects and stuff like that.
I did see the one power.
Okay, because I felt like mine was kind of not
Really?
wasn't 100% done. Yeah, I think we might have got 2 different sources there. But I just say that to preface it, because there might be some stuff that I might have not completely seen, because they give me a footnote like, hey, this was not completely done, XYZ. First, like, I'm not sure when you got your screener or anything like that.
It was yeah, we don't, yeah, we can talk about that off air. But I got it, like, I think they were almost
right. It was like, it was the finished one
by the time I got it. So
okay. So yeah, jumping into, like you said, episode 4, the Daughters of the Night, which
Daughter of the Night.
Daughter of the Night.
Yeah.
And like I said, this pretty much jumps right back off from where we left. Which, I mean, you kind of, one thing I hate is when shows completely don't pick up from where it left off. They'll just start off with somebody's story and then like middle. I'm like, can we get back to the cliffhanger, please? First off, what did you think about this episode? And without because I don't know if I don't want to go piece by piece of it, but definitely hit all the highlighted points. Like, and then like talk to spoilers on that, because we could be here all day talking the show. Yeah. So what did you think about the episode, and as far as like the books, like where you feel like they compare to?
So for me, I think this was a solid episode. I liked it even better than episode 3, but I also think it kind of reminded me of a WTF moment from like episode 4 last season. There was a moment, Nynaeve channeling for the first time. It was very different, but I liked the way that they handled it, as well as Logain being gentled, because that was different, but it was a nice different. So for this episode, yes, where Rand is and how we start off with him is different, but kind of similar at the same time. And he has like a situationship with Selene. It's a situationship until he said, I love you. I'm like, dude. Like, that was the worst thing you could have said, because as we get to the end of the episode, we find out that Selene is not just Selene. Selene is one of the Forsaken who Ishamael let out at the beginning of this episode.
So I already knew something was up when they had that whole scene. I couldn't tell if it was a dream from the last episode where he came back and they were getting together. And she was like, I'm not scared. You can go ahead and do what you. I'm like, okay, is this happening or not? Because like when he wakes up and the house is on fire, she's coming in instead of leaving, or whatever. So I'm not sure like if all of that had happened or not. But
it was definitely a dream, but it felt real. Right.
I mean, at this point, I can't trust anybody in the show. Anybody that seems too genuine, like the character that's with Matt, and they said her name. God forgive me. Men.
Yes, men.
So she just happens to be the captive next door, and she just happens to play her role, and then we find out she's working for the woman with the strong jawline here,
Leandrin. Sister Strong Jaws. Shout out to Everyday Negroes. Their reactions are hilarious. Yeah, Sister Strong Jaws.
But yeah, but my trust factor for any character in the show has been at a 0 based off these people. You can't trust anybody. Anybody that knows any of this group or seen them walking by or whatever, they're out to get something, or they're trying to use them to get to somebody else. So
I mean, Min is kind of between a rock and a hard place. I mean, she's being manipulated too by Leandrin, so it's not yes, she's part of a scheme, but it's a reluctant. She's reluctant about it. So I would give her some grace.
Mm. Now, just like I said, just get into this. Like I said, this episode, you said it was pretty good. You thought it was better than the last. What was like the thing that really, I guess, brought this like to like 5 stars? Like, chef's kiss for you. Like,
Okay, so we got introduced to Hopper,
oh,
and I love Hopper. I love him to death. He's one of my favorite characters in the books, and just the way that they introduced him was just so adorable. And the dog that's playing him is just so adorable. So I even got choked up because I was like, "That's Hopper." I'm seeing him in the flesh. He's just a little cutie pie. So my only thing about the wolves is I always imagined them like the dire wolves in Game of Thrones, and I just really wish they had the budget, because them being the size of the dire wolves in Game of Thrones would be so epic.
I mean, they got an unlimited budget. I mean, I don't understand what the problem
It's
is here.
limited enough if they give him more money to Rings of Power, and
Got the Jeff Bezos money. You know what I mean?
they could give the show more money, because the creatures that are in the books, we could have had them on the show, but because of the budget, and it's focused on the one power, which it should be, other things had to fall by the wayside, including creatures that I would have loved to have seen from the books. But yeah, Hopper special. So yeah, I'm looking forward to fans just falling in love with him like I did, and more things with Hopper, and of course Elias, and just them explaining a little bit more of his powers, because it's slightly different, but I see how they're trying to give it a visual element versus just being in his head, because we're in Perrin's head a lot.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to translate that. But another thing that I was kind of hoping is to hear a voice. And for me, there are certain parts in the books where hearing the voice, especially from the wolves, would have really ramped up the intensity of hopefully what's to come. But if they do it visually, that may work too. But we need to get that far too, because baby, the way this strike going, I need y'all to get it together. I need to see what I need to see in this series. If we can get through book 6, I will be happy.
That's kind of my fear too, especially with shows like this that are big budget, and I don't want to say everybody. I don't want to say people. The actors are unknowns, with the exception of our main, who plays Moraine. I'm trying to think of her name. She's like probably like the biggest bill on the schedule. So I'm hoping that they are able to complete this. Like I said, this is a large undertaking. With my knowledge of, I believe that this series was picked up by a different author and continued from what I hear.
So it's a total of 14 books. And Robert Jordan passed away, who was the main author. I'm trying to remember what year it was, but we thought the series wasn't going to be completed. It was just going to not be done, but he had enough notes, praise the Lord. And then another author, Brandon Sanderson, was able to take that mantle, because he was a fan of the books. And so he was able to complete the series. So we at least have a completed series.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. Please, all writers, please leave enough notes for your next kid if you're working on a big undertaking series like this. All of the Lord of the Rings, all of those big stories, and leave good notes so we can continue every day. Because I 25 years of me reading One Piece, I'm like, please let this guy stay in good health so we can finish this story. So I'm scared every day. Please let it finish. Now you were saying talking about Perrin. That's, like I said, that was one of the characters I'm just kind of like, why is he here? His powers have kind of been, hey, this is what it does. Okay, maybe this is not what it does. I was like, okay, maybe he's like maybe he's like a werewolf, like he changed it to a wolf or something like that. He has the power to control animals or something. It's really not clear to me.
for now we're focused on wolves. He is a wolf brother, so that's what they
Okay.
explained in episode 4. So a wolf brother has, communication with the wolves, is able to, have a friendship with the wolves, and have enhanced abilities that are wolf-like.
Right.
So that's what being a wolf brother is. Again, it's slightly different, but if they include some other elements to his abilities, like certain smells that he's able to do, I think that will be good, especially as far as him being able to read people. And okay, there's other elements too that they haven't introduced yet that I can't talk about.
Ah, yeah, I say it from
So
the
that's where Perrin will shine,
right.
as well as a few other characters. Those characters will shine once they introduce this element. They're kind of hinting at it, but they haven't officially like said this is what this is and this is what we can expand on that. But one thing I can say is dreams can be very prophetic and intuitive and very real.
Yeah,
That's
this
all
show
I'm
this
gonna
show does a lot of dream sequences. I've
say.
noticed. Like a lot of people waking up with cold sweats or somebody's dying or like some type of like you said, a prophecy, that something's going to happen. But like I said, they use dream sequences a lot. Now I didn't talk about it, but again with Perrin, he's with the Dark One, and like this group that I thought looked like the people from 300 a little bit, with the whole pyramid thing like that. What I mean, I guess, do they have a little bit more history? Did they talk about prior? Because they just kind of came out of nowhere, like the prior episode, and
Mhm.
catches them. Um, and then I'm not really sure what their purpose. I mean, they really don't give a lot here as to like kind of what they're doing. It's like the new players on the map.
Well, they actually told their purpose in episode 3. They're coming back after. Well, it's a lot of exposition in this
Yeah.
show, so it's kind of like, yeah. So they mentioned in episode 3 that they're coming back after leaving like over 1,000 years ago. So
Okay.
of course the people in
They
the
were trying
land
to get
that
back
we
their
know,
land.
yeah, they're trying to
Yeah.
pretty much take back the land that they had thousands of years ago. So, and of course with history, sometimes it gets lost. And so we're like, who are you? We're supposed to believe that you used to own this land. We don't know you. You haven't seen. So they're like the beginning of the invasion. They're like the initial force. And so, yes, the Sanchen are heavy hitters in this series, and we're gonna definitely get into a little bit more of them this season. Yeah, and based. I can't even say that. So let's just say that things are ominous for our girls now that Leandrin has knocked them out. Where they go is probably going to be revealed in episode 5. And yeah, uh, whoo, 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 whoo. I'm looking forward to the acting
Okay.
more than anything else, and some of the powers that are used in the coming episodes. So that's I
Yeah, I
can't
want to see more power. I want to
say more.
right.
Yeah.
Now jumping back to our girls, Ukraine and Nynaeve, um, we kind of said we jump back to her coming out of the arches. Everybody's surprised. You were saying that a lot of the elements here didn't happen the same way in the books. Like there were some changes that were made there.
There were some changes. For the most part, her arches are similar. Like the first one wasn't, but that's fine. The second and third arch were similar but still different. So with how she comes out of the arches, that was different. I didn't mind it as much, but at the same time, I'm kind of wishing that some of the Aes Sedai were there, or they, again, at least had a discussion about what happened. It seems like a hole writing wise that I just wish that they kind of addressed at least in this episode before they moved on to what else happened with them. So
it's not like they didn't have time. I mean, these episodes are like an hour, like 10 minutes, hour, 5 minutes. So
yeah, even with the elimination of the really cool open to, you know, help give us more in the episode, it's kind of like, dang. And this is a great, as a fan, and I think as book fans in general, like we wanted a 10 episode or a 12 episode season because we could get more.
Right.
And they could flesh out a lot more and probably give us some of the scenes that we really would have wanted to see from the book. But because of constraints, we're getting what we get. So I feel like they're leaving stuff out unless they're going to bring it up later. It's kind of hard to tell because, again, based on this episode, they don't address it other than directly between Nynaeve and Egwene, and then later her conversation with Leandrin, which he drops some news, and that propels them to try and leave, and that was pretty much a setup. And I thought her conversation with Leanne was interesting. There was definitely foreshadowing there with that conversation. So
yeah. Everything's a prophecy and being foreshadowed.
Foreshadowing. There was even foreshadowing in the first 3 episodes. So I kind of get into that in my other reviews, but for now, there's just foreshadowing galore.
No, I gotta tell you something. Like I really do not like not Nynaeve. Like I feel like she's, to me, like her character is really annoying. I don't like the uncertainty, the constant doubt, the, you know, like kind of like, even though she's supposed to be the most powerful player on the board, like I think I've just read enough superhero stories and like stuff like that to be tired of that trope. And I just wish her character had a little bit more confidence. And she was able to do more, because right now she just seems more of a liability to anything like that. I don't know if you felt the same way kind of reading it or just like watching it, or like the way she's portrayed by the actor and the actress in the show. But I just, out of all the characters here, I'm just like, I was kind of hoping she didn't come back to those arches. That was me. Yeah.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts. So okay. Nynaeve does go through a phase where she's very frustrating. A lot of these characters go through a phase where you're very frustrated with them. So this is pretty much on par as far as characterization of the characters in the books. You're going to be frustrated with them more than once, probably for a long time. In fact, there are some characters where people just have a love-hate relationship with them. So Nynaeve, I feel like, is one of them, but for me, as I got older, I understood her better, whereas when I was younger reading it, she got on my nerves until she did some cool things, and I was like, okay, I'm in your corner now. But we have to get to that point where she starts to really channel and focus instead of just being a ball of energy or a ball of rage. So I'm asking for patience.
I seen what she can do. She had that moment where they had the big battle in last season, and she, like, I guess she siphoned the life force out of the other Aes Sedai to like do her thing, whatever she did. That.
No, that was her. Oh. That's her level of power was able to heal everybody. She has that much power.
Now let me ask you something. So when Moraine found all of them, they were like all in the same place. What were the chances that, I mean, obviously, you know, for the sake of the plot of the show, that they all had like an ability, they all had something that they could bring to the table? Because I mean, you maybe 1 or 2 people, but like was like 5 or 6 that all have, with the exception of Crazy Matt with that dagger.
All of them have they're needed. Okay. So I'm gonna harken back to episode 7 again and what Min saw at the bar. All of them have surrounding lights and those lights flicker and are trying to be overtaken by the dark, but they're still being maintained because of these characters. So they all play a role. Matt's
apparently his purpose is to kill his best friend that we got from Men in the Prophecy in the last episode or so.
I'm a little concerned about that, but there was Maiden of the Spear, I think, on Twitter. She had another theory as far as what that vision may have meant. And if they go that route, then I'm like, okay, that could work, but then that could add an element that I wasn't even expecting. So there's just, I don't know what to take with that. I mentioned in my review, I'm a little concerned about that because that has the potential to go left just because it's different.
Right.
But they could do something with it that could work, but I would rather that not happen or that vision come true.
Hey, let the guy get a couple seasons, right? Like, I'm not sure like what the pacing of the seasons per book is. Like, is it a book per season? Is it like 2 books per season? Like how?
Well, we're trying to do 8 seasons, so 14 books. We ain't gonna do a book each season, but this season is supposed to combine major elements of 2 and 3.
Right.
I think with season 3, they may finish up book 3 and focus on book 4. The good thing about the books is there are some books that focus on just a couple of characters, and then the next book focus on the other characters and that kind of thing. So that could easily be combined. So if they do condense it into 8 seasons, if we make it to 8 seasons, then that could technically work. We just will probably miss a lot of the nuances probably, but we'll get probably some of the major stuff that happens.
Right.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I'm always concerned like when now I don't want to say like actors are like real prima donnas about it now, but like when you have like lengthy seasons, people like, man, I'm tired of it. I don't want to do it anymore. And God forbid, anything happens to them or anything like that. Like, having to deal with, recasting potentially or whatever. Because I am not a fan of recasting. I'm like, as soon as you recast major characters, I'm out. I don't want to watch it anymore. Like unless it's like a Doctor Who explanation as to why that character, that the main character's not there. I'm like, okay, but I feel like every actor should be like obligated to film their exit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what your contract says. You need to be obligated to film an exit. That's just me when it comes to long-term TV. Like,
well, unfortunately, with Matt, the actor left, and we don't know why. So, unfortunately, because of Matt being a very important character, you can't kill him off.
Right.
You can't. So, I am liking the new actor Donald Finn. I think he's giving me the Matt that I see in the books. So far the characterization of Matt is pretty solid.
You know what's wild? I didn't even realize they changed them until you said so. It was so dark in that cell. I'm like, hold on. I was questioning. I was like, is this the same? Okay. Now that you confirmed it, okay. I guess I just like contradicted what I said because I didn't notice.
Well, it does help that he wasn't in the last 2 episodes, so it's kind of like, and plus, depending on how long it's been since you've seen season 1, it's like, okay, well, we're in a new season. We're here. So, at least for that, that's not a bad transition.
No. Almost forgot the queen of the Asada herself, Moraine. She has a whole journey in this, and thank God she knows how to fight without her magic. Because woo, what did you think? Like finally having her just kind of being out and about. She doesn't have Lamb with her to protect her after she did him dirty. What did you? I guess what was your expectation of what were you going to get out of her from this particular episode as she's able to go on her journey to find Rand?
I wasn't expecting her to find him so fast. So when she popped up where she popped up, I was like, oh, okay. But then this is where her not having her powers, or her powers are hidden. That's where she had the advantage in this case, because I definitely think that like last season, if she had embraced the source, so to speak, she would have gotten marked. Because Selene, aka Lanfear, don't play that. And I like this setup. I do, because this is like round one between her and Lanfear. And this kind of really gets me excited, even more of what comes later. Although, when I first read it, I had to put the book down and go off somewhere and process. But it's one of those things where, like, this is a good setup. This is a very good setup. And again, when Rand told Selene, "I love you," that as irksome as that was, again, this is a good setup, because this situationship is no longer a situationship.
Right.
It's going to become something else, and I'm looking forward to what they do with this.
It's never just a casual hookup, is it?
Because yeah, Rand's gonna go through some things.
Man, I was really hoping, because he was also in love with Egwene, and I was really hoping that he would have got found his way back. But again, that whole dark tormented. I can't be loved. I can't go back around my friends. I'm gonna want to kill. I don't want to hurt anybody. I thought that would have been the first thing he tried to do, was get back to her, especially with them, being around each other for so long and having that history. And maybe, obviously at some point they'll probably get back together, but now I'm not really sure where that's going between them two.
Just keep watching, just watch and find out. I can't say nothing. I can't say nothing.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here to tease you in the sport.
Well, my book readers know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that are in the comments and may have even commented on your show, on your reviews last year, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I did some reviews last year with another person who was doing who read the books, and it was kind of like, man, I was like, I really want to read these, but they're like 15 books deep. I don't know if I have the time, because these books are pretty dense. I was like, I'll wait for the season. But I also had the opportunity to see some of the actors, which I wish they would have had more at New York Comic Con. This is like before season 2 was even thought to actually still be happening. We had the actress who played Nynaeve and Egwene and Perrin. They were all there, and the directors, and they was giving like little sneak previews of like kind of what the season was going to be. And so far, I'm not. Maybe they show some stuff in the later half, but so far I'm not seeing anything that they previewed when I initially seen the first look at like season 2.
They did include some things, but not everything. Even with the trailer that we got, they haven't included everything. A lot of it was in between episodes 1 and 3 and even 4. But there are some things that are coming up in the latter half that they haven't shown yet. So like I said, there are a few characters that are popping up that you probably have seen in that teaser that was in October, as well as the trailer, if you've seen it, that will definitely probably be within the later half.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to a lot here. You were talking about Logain earlier, and I for one, coming back into the second season, didn't think he was ever going to be seen again. I'm assuming because they kept him alive and the actor's still here, that he has obviously some higher purpose later in the show, or he possibly gets his powers back, which would make sense. I know. I'm just like, I'm tossing this ball.
Hey, your theories are very, very good.
Okay.
So I can't say much on that, but Logain is important. That's all I can say.
Yeah, we need more we need more guys with the one power in the show, not
I mean, they've already hinted at someone already in episode in the first episode actually, and then they confirmed it in episode 2. Because in the scene with Sheriam, Leandrin, and Alana, they were talking about another false dragon in Saldea. So there are definitely more men that can channel. So it's just a matter of what happens to them. Of course, the Reds are going to hunt him down, but because at the end of the day, the last battle is coming, you kind of need everyone.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that. I mean, that makes sense. We got another, all-out war that we're about to get into.
So yeah, so I can't really say much, but other than that, Logain is important. That's all I can say.
Okay. That's fair. We can leave it there. All right. So we talked about Moraine, where her journey was. We talked about Nynaeve. We talked about Egwene. Lan. God, man. God rest his soul. Hope he gets what he needs out of this journey. He's my favorite character on the show so far, to be honest. And I don't know how he's not dead yet, but because I feel like he's definitely had a couple close encounters where he should be laid out somewhere. Thank God for Aes Sedai healing, because he should.
Facts. He's been having way too many close calls for my comfort. But Lan is definitely a fan favorite. I like Lan. I mean, who doesn't? But even in the books, I loved Lan. So the actor that plays him I think he's doing an excellent job. The emotional part of him, I don't mind seeing, because in the books he's a little more stoic. You can't really tell what he's thinking, but we kind of hint at it. But it's kind of like sometimes that doesn't work in a visual medium. So you need a little bit of emotion coming out of the actor to give us more nuance to the character, because at the end of the day, he is feeling these feelings. So yeah, I like his portrayal so far. I'm really digging his portrayal. His conversation with the two warders and Alana. Again, that's a lot of exposition as far as what's happening with him and Moraine and the bond. So it's one of those things where people just have to really pay attention. And even I'm a little bit confused as far as like what is happening necessarily with their bond. Right. Because I'm confused as to whether it does Alana have it, or are we still thinking that Moraine doesn't have any of her power, so that bond is broken, so to speak. And so him processing it a lot better than stepping in this case is what they're really discussing. So it's kind of hard to tell what's happening.
Can you hear me?
Now I can't, but your camera was open. Now I can see you and hear you.
So I've noticed, like, when they were showing like the tower, they were showing like more Aes Sedai kind of being more involved with their warders, like, and like particularly the one where they have like the whole three-way, where it's like they almost kind of make it seem like you can't be involved in that way. And like obviously it's like not forbidden or frowned upon, but you were saying that the whole bond between them two and possibly going to somewhere else, like going to somebody else. Now, do you I'm not sure, is that because they don't have that romantic relationship between each other is why they no longer have that bond?
No, it's again, we don't know for sure what's happening with Moraine and her powers. Is she completely cut off, or is it something where she can't access it? So, and this is kind of hinting that maybe the bond is connected to the one power, just in a slightly different way than the normal elements, because there is a spirit element. So how does that work exactly? I think the show needs to give me a little more exposition, especially for new watchers or just show watchers, and to better explain it. I feel like I may be spoiling something without really spoiling anything. It's kind of hard to tell because I don't know what's happening. I'm confused. And if I'm confused, that's a problem. But the thing is, they do have the ability to mask the bond, so you can hide your feelings and your thoughts. And so Moraine did do that twice last season, and now we're here where we are, where Lan can't see or feel her at all, and we don't know for sure if that's because, again, she's cut off or what have you. So, but then there is a possibility to prevent if an Aes Sedai dies without passing the bond to someone else. That's an issue because we see what happened with Steppen. He killed himself, and they were discussing that in episode 5 last season about Steppen becoming Alana's warder to help him process Karina's death.
I remember that.
So when the bond is cut off, there is a possibility of another Aes Sedai bonding with that warder.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Like, because I completely forgot about they had that whole episode where like Aes Sedai were dying and he was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, so yeah. So we like to keep this rule where we don't like to keep the reviews longer than the episode. So
we're coming. Yeah, I feel like we discussed a lot, but definitely WTF moment at the end with Moraine. Well, I definitely want to talk about the fight scene.
Yeah.
Dark.
I was just about to ask you about that. Yeah, so go ahead and get into it, and then we can get into that.
It was too dark, and I wanted to see more sword forms because he's been practicing, and I really wish we would have seen him practicing. So when he does fight with the Murjaw, it shows progress. Him learning the sword forms, because him learning the sword forms is important. And so we see a hint of him with one of the patients saying, hey, you can teach me some forms. And so you kind of get to see his progress, but I would have wanted to see his progress before. So, so I can kind of like compare to how far he's gotten when he does fight the Murjaw. So it is what it is. Again, it's too dark. I want daytime.
Is that a budget thing, or just to be honest? I mean, there's very few scenes where it's not dark with him in it. Like it's probably like,
because of his situationship and where they're showing. Like, I mean, he is in the daytime at the mental hospital.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. That's probably like the only scene where you see him during the day.
But because he got his little situationship going, and of course he's been having nightmares, we see him at night too. Very dark. Yeah, I just want more daytime fight scenes now. It's getting old.
No, I hear you. It's definitely something that I was just like, I'm like, it can't be a coincidence. But I've seen a lot of shows have been doing that lately, where like the fight scenes to be at night where they're trying to mask like CGI or whatever the situation is. Like, I'm like, all right, but then you wind up really just can't see nothing but a flicker of light from the fire every now and then, or like what's going on. So yeah. Again, I'm with you. I really hope that we do get to see more daytime fight scenes because they do a really good job with them. I just wish we could see them. So that's kind of my life there. Yeah.
Yeah, and real quick with Min and Ishamael, because that's apparently the person that she's supposed to meet for the next steps. So that means that Leandrin is not just being manipulative. This is a setup for our girls. And what does that mean exactly? Can you guess?
I'm guessing like it felt like to me like everything with just the group in general has been like they need to be pushed. Like they need to be kind of pushed out I don't want to say the comfort zone because like they're very reliant on each other to the point where they kind of have to be manipulated. So that's kind of where I am. Like everything that I've seen so far with the training, with everybody, talking to Egwene and Nynaeve and stuff like that, everything is all connected like one circle. So like they're obviously at some point in the show they're all gonna somehow meet up. And have a happy moment, or probably not a happy moment, but as far as like her, Min and Matt, like where that goes, I'm honestly not sure.
Okay, I don't know either, but I think well, because this is a pairing I didn't know I needed actually, so this is actually a good thing because I don't even know if I know they're going to head in a certain direction, but how they get there is where I'm wondering how it's going to go. But the fact that we have a Shamael meeting with several people that I did not expect him to meet with, again, Perrin and Min. So his hand is in a lot more things that even I was anticipating. So again, we do know that a Shamael is not the Dark One, but he is a Forsaken, and he has, using his powers, he has broken another seal that housed another Forsaken, Lanfear, who we officially met tonight with Moraine murking her, but she's healing herself. So she's going to come for blood, and blood calls blood. Blood is blood. I'm trying to remember the phrase, but he was citing the poem that Moraine had from episode 1. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Jeez,
in old time. Yeah,
that definitely went over my head because I was like, that was from episode 1. Like I really missed that. But shout out to Rosamund Pike, man, for doing this though. You know what I mean? Because not like she's an actress, but usually once you get to Hollywood level, you start kind of frowning. But this is also, like I said, high fantasy, big budget, show that you're talking about a commitment of like 8 years. So it was to see how that goes. Before we close out, what was your highlight moment of the episode?
Oh,
besides the dark fight, yeah. Hopper, yeah, he's gonna bring him up every episode. We gotta get him on every shot.
Yeah, no, and I need some merch. Like
I was just about to ask you about that.
There's a few T-shirts. I feel like I can get more merch from like the cons that have come across, like Jordan Con, Watt Con, or even Malkir Con. I just haven't been to those. I haven't had a chance to go to those, but I want to go one of these years. But I feel like I can get merch from them or find merch that they would have. But I only had like a sweatshirt that I got from Amazon, and maybe like some sayings on T-shirts. But I want Wolf merch. Y'all need to give me Wolf merch, including Hopper. I need merch, y'all. Get it together.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. There's no excuse. It's been 2 years. Like we should definitely have more Wheel of Time because obviously there's a lot of people watching the show for it to be a second season. So let's get that merchandise going. My only thing I want to say before we close this out is like I definitely, like you said, I want to see more of those fights in the daytime. I want to see I want to finally start to see more of these characters start to be more confident. Because the lack of it is starting to be slightly irritating to me. Like, I want to see more confidence. I want to see a plan start to form. I mean that's just long-term storytelling, so I'm not faulting it there, but I just definitely want to see our resident Aes Sedai put some work in. But other than that, that's it. I mean, it was a great episode. I can't wait because I didn't see a preview for episode 5, so
I didn't either, and I don't want to.
Yeah, so as I was about to say, at this point, I just want to go into each episode blind. I want to go in and not know what's going on. So every time when I watch this, I'm probably just would skip the if they continue to do previews, I'm probably just gonna skip it and just say, hey, we're gonna wait for the next one.
Yeah, but I have a feeling I know at least part of what's going to happen in episode 5. Especially where they ended episode 4, in particular with the girls.
Okay. Well,
that's my prediction anyway.
So episode 4, Daughter of the Nights. You said this was your favorite so far. So far,
well, I mean, we're halfway through the season, so
only
that
8?
could change. That could change.
Okay.
Because it episode 4 was my favorite last season, followed by like 7, and then like
I feel like the same way because I didn't really get into it until like 4 or 5 episodes into the last season. I was just like, man, it's kind of slow. Like nothing was happening, nothing was popping off. That first season, I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't until like they really started to get into it. I'm like, okay, this makes more sense now. But now, like I said, even the second season, they're still kind of going back to that format where it's like, all right, you get into this new season. It's like there's nothing going on. okay, here's the episode we're really going to spark the match here, and then here we go. So
I mean, ironically, episodes 1 through 3 this season I like better than last season, but it's still kind of hard to rank them at this point because we're halfway through the season.
Right. All right. Well, like I said, this is episode 4. This is our review. We really hope that you enjoyed the conversation. We're gonna try to figure out the schedule for next week because as far as I know, we no longer have any future access to episodes. So we're gonna probably either do that, try to do this like next day, or somehow we'll figure out the schedule, and we'll I'm gonna have more for questions for Nat here because my curiosity is I don't want to spoil myself, but yet I have some questions that I feel like I'm really hammering on the head here that I'm kind of dancing around. So we're gonna bring you back for episode 5 once we figure out what like I said, the schedule on that. But we'll definitely be back next week because this airs on Thursdays.
Yeah,
Thursdays, probably like 9 or 10, probably, right? It's probably something.
Hey, we can always do a live discussion, chat with folks. So we may do that for the season finale.
Figure. Yep, definitely figure it out. But again, Terrell here with BGB, Big Gold Belt. We got Nat with Team JVS. Please check out our reviews on both our channels. I got episodes 1 through 3. You did like episode per episode, like you just did.
Yeah, I did 1 through 3.
Okay, so we do 1 through 3. We're doing 4. And like I said, check those out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you thought about the tonight's episode. Leave us a comment. Shoot us a comment on each channel. And on that note, I've said a lot. Nat, was there anything you need to say?
No, just thanks for having me. I hope we do more.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really want to see where this goes. Now, I really want to see the girls like really gain just a little bit more confidence and more power. I'm tired of the tease of what Nynaeve could do. I really want to see it once she's in control of it. Right now that she's passed the McDonald's arches test, I want to see. I want to see what she can do. But again, we're trying to like I said, keep these shorter than the actual episode. But I had a lot of questions. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we didn't do too good this episode, but we should get it together. And we didn't even talk about the sister, but but you know what? Let's not worry about that. We can talk about the sister in the comments. If you have comments about Moraine's scenes with her sister, which were very well acted, definitely leave a comment below.
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks, and we'll see you guys next time for episode 5. See you.
All right.